Hello, folks. In this short video, I'm going to talk you through an alternative way of playing computer to step through and visualize what our code is doing. At the moment, you are using a visualizer embedded in the user interface inside the prep view. However, we can also make use of something called the VS Code debugger. Now, there are lots of different ways of setting this up, but I'm just going to talk you through a very quick way of doing this. So first thing I'm going to do is set up my VS Code terminal so that when I execute iteration.js, when I run the code inside iteration.js, it will allow me to pause the execution of the code at various points. What do I mean by this? Well, up to now, we've been running files like this, so we can do node iteration.js. What we would like to do is step through the code and maybe even pause at various points. So what I'm going to do is just hover over the left-hand side of the file, and I can add in some red dots just by clicking here. These red circles, if I hover over them, tells me what they are. These are breakpoints. Breakpoints are parts of the code where we want to pause when we run the code. So instead of just running the file with node straight away, what we want to do is invoke the debugger, which will be an application that allows us to pause the execution at various points. So to do this, one way of doing this is if I run Command-Shift-P, like so, I can open up the command palette in VS Code. If you're on Windows or a Linux machine, it should be Control-Shift-P. And I can hit this debug toggle auto attach on this machine. And I'm just going to run with this setting here, only with the flag inspect is given, only auto attach when the inspect flag is given. Cool. So what that means is now if I run node inspect iteration.js, by adding this inspect flag here, I'm going to do something slightly different this time. Cool. What we see now is we're inside the debug panel of VS Code. What we can see over here on the left is this variables section where VS Code is keeping track of variables that are declared in memory. And what I can see is within the local scope of calculate mean, we see the variables declared within the frame for calculate mean. So I have the list and I have this variable total, which is undefined. But if I click on this blue arrow here, step into, total gets its initial value of 0. And I start to enter the for of loop here. So inside this for of block, which I am here, item is undefined, but item is going to be assigned a value equal to the first element in the array. So we're going to see item gets the value 10. So if I step into this loop again, keep going. Now that I'm inside the body of the for loop, we should note that item has a value of 10. Here, total is still 0, but I'm on this line here saying total plus equals item, which means that the total variable is being incremented by the value of item. So if I click on step into again, we see the total goes up to 10. And we're going to go back round and go through the loop. So the debugger here is a great way of visualizing what's happening in the code, gives us an alternative way of playing computer and stepping through to see how the code is executed. So let's just keep going with this example. So point item of list. So item is undefined at the moment within this block, but if I step into for loop body, item has now a value of 20, which is the element index position 1 in the array. Cool. And you can follow along with this at home as well. Total at the moment is 10, but we're going to be doing total plus or equal to item. So we're going to expect total to get incremented to 30. Let's do this again. Cool. Go back to the loop. So now item is going to be assigned a value of 30. which we get here. Total is going to get incremented by 30 again. So total is going to be incremented to 60. Now we're going to expect item to have a value of 40. Cool. And total, therefore, to go up to 100. And finally, we're going to hit the last element in the array and expect item to be assigned a value of 50. Then total 100 is going to be incremented by 50 as before. And now we're at the end of the array. So now we're going to step into again. This time we reach the end of the function because there are no more items to iterate through in this array. So total is 150. Return value is undefined. This is because at the moment we're not returning anything from calculate mean. So once we do that, this expression will evaluate to 100 to undefined because we've not actually returned anything from the function. But what we're really doing here is just using the debugger to visualize what happens as we iterate through that for of loop.